Newsy tab. Let's do the hot news thing that we do here on the channel with the things and stuff and Intel stuff, because it turns out that they may not be as dead in the water as you would anticipate them being, because it turns out that that massive lead that they had back in 2015 still continues to tide them over to be equivalent to AMD. And with the next generation upcoming Rocket Lake CPUs, there's some intriguing information coming out that can make it so that they continue to stay competitive with AMD even on 14 nanometers, which we can crap on Intel all we want for the fact that they haven't advanced since the Stone Ages of PCs. But you can't deny the fact that that lead must have been huge for them to still continue to put up similar numbers without advancing in 5 years, right? So Intel Rocket Lake, which is supposed to launch sometime next year, is supposed to be a backported version of their 10 nanometer architecture, which is basically all the advances that they've made, and then they have to put it on their 14 nanometers. And it's not going to give them all of the benefits that they would see from going to 10 nanometers, such as more power efficiency. So Intel will continue to be hot and loud, but apparently it's going to be good enough to give them a 10% IPC increase over Skylake. And it's also apparently going to allow them to hit over 5 gigahertz as well. And they're likely going to call it Cypress Cove because it's a backport of their Willow Cove architecture. So 10% IPC improvement, same clock speeds, TDP is supposed to be high. You think that's kind of what happens with Intel these days. And to just slightly more confirm the idea that Rocket Lake is going to have 5 gigahertz clocks, there is a Geekbench posting that came out where it indeed is running at 5 gigahertz here. So 10% IPC increase is slightly less than what we're expecting to come out from AMD with their Zen 3 architecture that we're expecting later this year, which is supposed to be in the 12 to 15% region. So if AMD gains 12 to 15% and Intel gains 10, that would mean AMD is still the clear winner, but not as big of a margin as they would be if Zen 3 comes out and Intel has nothing to show for it. So this could somehow keep Intel competitive if they were willing to drop their prices and take the stance of what AMD has been to Intel for a while. Intel's got to come in at that underdog pricing. Like, yeah, we know it's not as good, but just buy it because it's a better value. Is that possible? Could we even see that? I don't know, but Intel's making some leadership changes that may potentially allow for that. So we talked about previously how Intel has announced that they're going to be delayed in their 7 nanometer production by a year, on top of the fact that they've been delayed in their 10 nanometer production. Well, they've just announced that their CEO will be leaving the company on August 3rd, and CEO meaning Chief Engineering Officer, not their Chief Executive Officer, because Bob Swan recently took over the company. So he's not necessarily to blame for all of the 7 nanometer failures that have been going on, more probably on the Chief Engineering Officer. They're going to be promoting from within in order to get a new Chief Engineering Officer going on that, and that hopefully will continue to drive them forward and allow them to not continue to miss deadlines on everything that they do. Intel new CEO, hopefully that will solve their problems. But in case you want an Intel PC, why not make it this Konami PC? This is Konami's Ares Spear mini PC, I guess you could call it. They have an i5 9400F, 8 gigs of RAM, 512 gig SSD, and a GTX 1650. It's not like superb specs, but it's just kind of a neat looking mini PC from Konami. Wasn't expecting them to drop a PC. Apparently they're going to be for sale in Japan, not likely to come to the Western market. And they also look really expensive, starting at like $1,700 for those minimum specs. I will pass on that, I'll tell you, but it looks neat, which is what I say about PlayStation's Instant Access gaming system, which will allow you to instantly play certain games on your PlayStation 5 without having to download them as well. It came out after an announcement by WRC9 saying that this is going to be called PlayStation Activities, just so you're aware. Got a name for it. PlayStation Activities allows you to instantly play games on the PS5. But in case you're trying to decide between PS5 and Xbox Series X, well, PC people got to inform you on that. Obviously, you go with PC, but if we're going to talk about what the founder of Valve thinks, Gaben from Steam, well, he says that the Xbox Series X is better, okay? He says you should get one of those. He said, we at Valve do most of our development on personal computers, but of the two, I would definitely go with an Xbox Series X. Oh, I couldn't Imagine why that would be. Would it be the higher specs? No, probably not. It probably has something to do with the fact that Microsoft develops all of their Xbox games for both platforms, and the more games that Xbox develops that people are trying to play, the more that could actually come to Steam on PC, because it's been shown that maybe Xbox Series X exclusives won't necessarily have to be through the Windows Store. They could be through Steam. So the fact that he would sell more games on Steam if the Xbox Series X does well, because that would bring in more revenue for game developers to make for the Xbox Series X. I couldn't imagine why he would think the Series X is better. But that just might be my PlayStation 5 fanboy showing. But don't you worry. PC is still going to be the only place where you can play WoW. World of Warcraft being confirmed that it's going to be only for PC. This is after some new code in the Shadowlands expansion supported game controllers, which led people to think, oh, it's coming out for the Series X and the PS5. And they're just like, no, we're just adding the controller support to the PC, but chill. Okay, so Blizzard saying, wow, not coming out to gaming consoles, but we've heard this before. And yesterday, Cuphead got dropped for the PS4. It's coming out on the PS4, which is intriguing because you might remember back in 2017, the developers said that it would never come out for the PS4. This was updated. This came out in 2017, July 5th, 2017, saying that it was a 100% lifetime PC Microsoft exclusive, even though that there was rumors coming out that it would come out for the PS4. Well, it's here. So, maybe WoW will come to consoles. Hey, so you never know. Never say never. Which we've been waiting for a while for Google Stadia to get its act together. I'm pretty sure they're dead now, okay? As much as I held on hope for them, Microsoft's just going to kill them with xCloud. GeForce Now obviously has a completely different revenue model, which is going to also kick Stadia's butt. You have the two forces of NVIDIA and Microsoft. They're going to murder Stadia in its sleep. Anyways, they're launching the mobile playing now, where you can try on 4G and 5G networks on your phone. If you go into the experiments tab on your Stadia app on your Android phone, you can make that happen. Stadia is dead. Sorry. But in case you want to buy stuff from the Google Store, including a Stadia controller, if you can find it cheaper anywhere else, Google Store will now price match for new countries as well as new retailers in the US. Previously, it was just hand select versions of them, but now they've added B&H, and then 23 countries also getting added to the price matching segment, which I need some price matching on this. The Sony a7S III price matching, I just mean cheap. I need more money to buy this because this thing is crazy. Full frame camera, it's beautiful. We currently shoot most of our stuff on an a7 III here at the office, so getting an a7S III would be a huge step up. It's $3,500, has 4K 120 FPS, has Sony's amazing autofocus system. Sony also redid the colors. This thing just looks to be phenomenal. I don't have a ton of super added detail to talk about this, but the a7S III does look to be like a really, really good video camera for $3,500. I wish I could see it. I might have been able to see one in person at CES this next coming year, but turns out they canceled it. And actually, I was never going to go because, the whole pandemic thing. Anyways, they canceled it because of the, whole pandemic thing. So it's online. Could have saw that coming. Anyways, LG is also ramping up its OLED productions, which you could have seen at CES as well. OLED production being ramped up 85%. Currently, they can only produce 70,000 OLEDs a month. Now they're going to be able to do 130,000 with them ramping up to even more, 160,000 after that every single month, which they're going to kind of need to do that in order to keep competitive with the new mini and micro LEDs that are coming out. Not sure necessarily that LG bet on the right horse with OLED, but we'll see how that turns out. Speaking of horses are no longer useful for transportation in most places because of cars, and the electric car is here, or should I say the electric bus. Yes, eBussy, which don't like that name at all, is a modular electric vehicle that has a ton of features. So they dropped this little preview trailer yesterday where you can basically make it modular. It has an off-road and a city chassis, as well as a whole bunch of different other configurations such as batteries and panels. It has a solar panel. You can access the batteries and swap them out. It has a steering wheel which you can slide across the dashboard because it's drive-by-wire, which I'm not a fan of. And then, as you can see, you can just configure it however you may want it to be. It's neat. It's going to be coming out in Germany for about 16,000 euro, which isn't terrible. And then 29,000 euro for the most expensive one. The things that I like about it is obviously the convertibility, but then they're claiming some really intriguing numbers as far as battery capacity, or rather battery mileage that you get out of it. So with a 10 kilowatt hour battery, you can get 124 miles. With a 30 kilowatt hour battery, you get 373 miles, which is crazy because a Tesla Model 3 long range with I think it's a 75 kilowatt hour battery, you can get 320 miles. So they're claiming some efficiency that you can't find in other electric vehicles. This is likely due to the weight, because it's going to be super lightweight, between 1,000 and 1,300 pounds. That's hardly anything. So I like this. We'll see if it actually ever comes out to the US. But while we're on the topic of German cars, let's talk about Volkswagen for a second, because they paid out $9.5 billion to US customers because of their Dieselgate emissions hackery that they were doing at one point. They had the option of paying out a financial compensation to Volkswagen owners, or they could trade their cars in for a better car. Well, turns out most people took the cash, 86%, which led to them paying out nearly $10 billion, which is probably how much it's going to cost for you to get on one of these space rockets right now. Actually, it's probably going to be less in the future. But Virgin Galactic's Spaceship Two cabin has been unveiled as of yesterday. You can see that it has tons of little windows for you to view the Earth as you're blasting up, and it looks really futuristic. It's kind of neat. We'll see how it plays out if this ever actually comes out. Obviously, it's a rendering and it's not something that's real as of yet. We'll have to see. I would like to go to space at least once. And I'm going to space out because I'm done with this episode of Hot News. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being you. Really appreciate you for who you are. So, like, subscribe, Hot News. Toodaloo.